Why the deadliest human in the room is always the one no one notices. Humans are absolutely fascinating creatures, remarked Zoltar, adjusting his perception filters as he studied the gathering from our observation post. So aggressive, yet so oblivious. I couldn't help but flick my sensory appendages in agreement. Our mission to Earth had stretched into its third rotation cycle, and we were no closer to understanding these bipedal contradictions than when we first arrived. Commander Vex, take a look at this one. Zoltar pointed toward a corner of the diplomatic reception. The tall one with the artificial body coverings in dark blue. Notice how all the other humans defer to him. Classic alpha behavior. I responded, focusing my ocular enhancements on the specimen. Designation, Ambassador Jerome Bradley. Loud vocalizations. Excessive hand gestures, constantly interrupting others. Yes, quite intimidating to the other humans. Our job was simple. Identify the most dangerous humans before the Galactic Council's formal first contact next solar cycle. The Council had learned through painful experience that appearances among sentient species could be deceiving. The Flaxoids looked like harmless floating bubbles but secreted acid strong enough to dissolve spacecraft hulls. The Zentari resembled vicious predators but were philosophers who hadn't engaged in physical conflict for 10,000 years. Humans, however, they were an enigma wrapped in contradictions, sealed with paradoxes. What about the female human near the refreshment dispensers? Asked Trill, our behavioral analyst, her voice tinged with that annoying musical quality that all Andromedans possess. She's displaying all the warning signs we were briefed about. Aggressive stance, constant surveillance of the room, minimal consumption of intoxicants. I swiveled my sensory stalk to observe. Designation, Security Chief Amanda Reeves. Expected behavior for her function. Not our primary concern. The diplomatic reception buzzed with activity. Representatives from 17 Earth nations mingled, discussing the mysterious satellite that had appeared in orbit 2 weeks ago. Little did they know it was merely a decoy, drawing attention while our actual observation team worked at ground level. This is pointless, grumbled Kraz, our weapons specialist, his exoskeleton clicking in annoyance. These creatures are walking contradictions. They create art celebrating peace while simultaneously developing increasingly efficient ways to destroy each other. How are we supposed to determine which ones pose the greatest threat? Patience, I counseled, though privately I shared his frustration. Remember the Council's briefing. The most dangerous human is rarely the most obvious one. As if to punctuate my statement, Ambassador Bradley's booming laugh echoed across the room. And then I told the Prime Minister, either sign the treaty or prepare for consequences. Several humans around him chuckled nervously. See that? Zoltar whispered. Classic dominance display. I wasn't convinced. Something about this gathering wasn't adding up. My gaze drifted across the room, past the security personnel, beyond the loud politicians, landing on a human standing alone near a large transparent viewing panel. Who's that one? I asked, focusing my enhancers. Trill consulted her data tablet. Designation, Dr. Morgan Frost. An occupation, xenobiologist. Seemingly unremarkable. Low social engagement metrics. No political power. No military background. What's a xenobiologist doing at a diplomatic function? Kraz wondered. I zoomed my enhancers further. Dr. Frost sipped from a glass of amber liquid, watching the proceedings with an expression I couldn't quite interpret. Unlike the security chief's obvious vigilance, this human's observation felt different and calculated. Patient. Run a deeper analysis, I ordered. Trill's appendages flew across her tablet. Interesting published papers on theoretical alien biology. Specializes in adaptation mechanisms and survival strategies of Earth organisms in extreme environments. Currently heading a research division at something called DARPA. What's DARPA? Zoltar asked. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Kraz read from his own device. Military Research Division. They develop new technologies for human warfare. A chill ran through my neural pathways. So a scientist who specializes in how life forms adapt and survive is working for a military research agency and just happens to attend a diplomatic reception following the appearance of an unknown satellite. That's concerning, Trill admitted. As we watched, Dr. Frost casually moved through the crowd. Unlike Ambassador Bradley's loud movements or Security Chief Reeves' obvious alertness, Frost moved like water, barely noticed by the others. Each movement seemed purposeful yet natural. When Frost spoke to someone, it was brief, with minimal gestures, yet the humans being addressed gave their full attention. "Watch how they all answer her questions," I murmured. The ambassador, the security chief, even the servers, they all provide information without hesitation. Gathering intelligence, Kraz noted. Classic predatory behavior. Ambassador Bradley suddenly approached Dr. Frost, his voice carrying even to our enhanced receivers. "Morgan, didn't expect to see you here, slumming it with us political types?" Frost smiled, a small, controlled movement of facial muscles. "Just curious about the satellite situation, Jerome. You know how we scientists get about unexplained phenomena." "Ha! Well, don't worry your pretty head about it. Just some Chinese or Russian tech demonstration, I'd wager. Nothing my team can't handle." "Of course," Frost replied, voice smooth and modulated. "Though if you need any technical consultation, my department is available." "I will keep that in mind," Bradley said before moving on to louder conversations. "Did you notice that?" I asked my team. "Notice what?" Zoltar seemed confused. In 30 seconds of conversation, Dr. Frost confirmed the satellite isn't identified, assessed that multiple nations are suspected, determined that Bradley's team is handling the response, and positioned herself as a resource for further involvement, all while letting Bradley believe he's in control of the interaction. Trill's appendages twitched nervously. "Commander, I'm pulling up more data on Dr. Frost. Top of her academic cohort. Multiple advanced degrees. Former emergency medical technician. Wilderness survival training. Multilingual. Pilot's license. A Renaissance human," Kraz muttered. "No," I corrected, a realization dawning. A preparation-obsessed human. One who acquires skills methodically, but one who observes before acting. As if sensing our attention, Dr. Frost suddenly looked directly toward our observation post, a feat that should have been impossible given our cloaking technology. The human's eyes narrowed slightly, head tilting in curiosity. Then Dr. Frost raised the glass in a small gesture that almost seemed like acknowledgement. Commander, Trill's voice had gone up an octave. "I think we have been compromised." "Impossible," Kraz insisted. "Our technology is centuries beyond theirs." Yet as we watched, Dr. Frost casually placed a small device on the window ledge before walking away to mingle with other guests. "Scan that device," I ordered, feeling a growing sense of alarm. Zoltar complied, then jerked back from his scanner. It's emitting a signal on exactly the frequency of our cloaking field." "How is that possible?" Kraz demanded. "They shouldn't even know what to look for." I watched as Dr. Frost glanced back once at the device, a small smile playing across those otherwise unremarkable features. "I believe," I said slowly, "we have just identified the most dangerous human in the room. Abort mission. Now," I barked, retracting my observation equipment with uncharacteristic haste. Our covert observation post, disguised as a maintenance room in the building adjacent to the diplomatic reception, suddenly felt like a trap. "But Commander Vex, our protocols require," Zoltar began. "Protocols be damned. That human just detected technology that should be undetectable. We need to relocate immediately." My team scrambled to pack our equipment, a flurry of appendages and clicking exoskeletons. The mood had shifted from scientific curiosity to something our species rarely experienced: fear. How? Kraz demanded, collapsing his weapons array into a portable disguise module. How did that human identify our energy signature? We are using quantaflux shielding. Their species hasn't even discovered reliable fusion power yet. I had no answer that wouldn't terrify my crew further. If Dr. Morgan Frost had detected our presence, it meant one of two equally disturbing possibilities. Either humans were far more technologically advanced than our intelligence suggested, or this particular human possessed observational abilities that bordered on the supernatural. Transport signatures active, Trill reported, her musical voice now strained with tension. Extraction point is 3 blocks east. Disguise protocols engaged. We activated our human appearance generators. Uncomfortable, restrictive tech that made us appear as unremarkable maintenance workers. The molecular restructuring always felt like being squeezed through a tube of gelatinous nutrients, but it was our only option for ground movement. Remember, I cautioned as we prepared to exit: casual movement patterns. No synchronized walking. No perfect posture. Humans are chaotic and inefficient in their movements. We emerged onto the street, the primitive combustion vehicles roaring past, spewing noxious gases that our filters barely managed to process. The gathering darkness offered some protection, though the artificial illumination these humans seemed so fond of negated most tactical advantages of nightfall. Commander Zoltar's voice came through our neural comm. Surveillance drones show no pursuit. Perhaps we overreacted. Perhaps, I acknowledged, though my dorsal spines remained rigid with tension beneath my disguise. But I'd rather explain an abundance of caution to the Council than explain how we were compromised by a Level 3 pre-interstellar species. We continued our awkward procession down the street, attempting to mimic the uneven gaits of actual humans. The extraction point, a small urban park with enough tree cover to mask our transport energy signature, was just 2 blocks away when Trill suddenly froze. Commander, incoming transmission on our emergency frequency. That's impossible, Kraz hissed. No one knows we are here except Central Command, and they wouldn't break protocol. Put it through, I ordered, a sense of dread building in my thoracic cavity. What came through our comms wasn't the expected static or even an accidental signal bleed from human communications. It was a clear, perfectly modulated voice speaking in flawless galactic standard. To the observers from beyond, your cloaking technology is impressive, but your exfiltration technique needs work. You are drawing attention. My team halted, heads swiveling to locate the source. Across the street, leaning casually against a primitive food dispensary establishment, stood Dr. Morgan Frost. No longer in formal attire, the human now wore dark, functional clothing and seemed completely at ease, one hand holding a steaming beverage container. "How is this possible?" Zoltar whispered, voice cracking with strain. The language patterns, the frequency modulation. Frost couldn't have had more than 20 minutes to analyze that device, Kraz added, his warrior's composure visibly shaken. The human raised the beverage in a small salute, then spoke again, this time moving nothing but lips, yet the words came through perfectly on our comm system. "Your species has distinctive movement patterns, very efficient, but too synchronized for a random group of humans. Also, your molecular restructuring tech has a slight blue aura at the edges. Fascinating stuff. Mind if we chat?" "This is a violation of contact protocols," I responded automatically, though I knew we were well beyond protocols at this point. "Your species is not cleared for first contact procedures." Frost's expression shifted to something I would later learn humans call amusement. "Yet here you are, on our planet, in disguise. Seems like contact to me, just not the official kind." "Don't worry, I'm not here to expose you." A professional courtesy between observers. A ground transport vehicle, sleek, black, and ominously silent for human technology, pulled alongside Frost. The door opened. "I'm heading to a more private location. You are welcome to join." Or you can continue to your extraction point in the park. Fair warning, though, there's a community night festival starting there in about 5 minutes. Hundreds of humans, children, pets, chaos, not ideal for a discreet departure. With that, Frost stepped into the vehicle. The door remained open, an invitation. "It's a trap," Kraz stated flatly, his weapons systems humming beneath his disguise. Obviously, I agreed, but our alternative is potentially exposing ourselves to hundreds of humans. "We could find another extraction point," Trill suggested. I checked our tactical positioning. The next viable location is 6 kilometers away. It's too far to maintain these molecular disguises without degradation. "So we are actually considering entering a human transport voluntarily?" Zoltar couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. "With a human who somehow breached our security in minutes." "Sometimes," I said, making my decision, "the safest place is right next to the predator. At least you can see their teeth." Maintaining our awkward human movements, we crossed the street and approached the vehicle. Up close, I noticed subtle differences from other human transports: denser materials, unusual sensor arrays camouflaged as decorative elements. As we hesitantly entered, Frost smiled. "Excellent choice. Don't worry about the driver. Theo has unique security clearances." The human-designated Theo nodded but said nothing, guiding the vehicle smoothly into the flow of traffic. Inside, the transport was larger than it appeared from the outside. Comfortable seating faced inward, creating a conference configuration. No restraints, no obvious weapons, though that meant little given the technological surprises we'd already encountered. "So," Frost began conversationally, "quantaflux shielding, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful technology. The interference pattern it creates in the microwave background radiation is subtle but distinctive once you know what to look for." My team exchanged alarmed glances. This human shouldn't even know the term quantaflux, let alone be able to detect its specific radiation signature. "You have us at a disadvantage," I said carefully. "Deliberately so," Frost agreed with surprising candor, "though probably not for the reasons you are thinking. I'm not interested in capturing you, studying you, or harming you. I'm interested in establishing a baseline for communication before the official circus begins." "Official circus?" Trill echoed. "Your decoy satellite. Quite clever, by the way. The materials are just alien enough to provoke interest without causing panic. I assume the actual first contact is scheduled soon. Given the orbital mechanics and upcoming lunar eclipse, I'd guess within the next 2 weeks. I felt my pseudo-human jaw slacken. This human had not only detected our presence but correctly deduced the entire mission parameters and timeline. "How many others know?" I managed to ask. "About you specifically?" "Just me and a very small department." "About the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence?" "Most humans with scientific training consider it likely, though opinions vary on whether contact would be beneficial." The vehicle turned into an underground facility, descending via a spiral ramp. Security measures were evident, but understated: no obvious weapons, but plenty of sensors and reinforced barriers. "Where are you taking us?" Kraz demanded, his disguise briefly flickering as his stress levels spiked. "It's just my private lab. Shielded from outside observation, including from your orbital ships," Frost added pointedly. "Consider it neutral ground." The vehicle stopped in a small, well-lit chamber. As the doors opened, I noticed something odd about the room. It was perfectly circular, with walls made of a material I couldn't immediately identify. "Welcome to the bubble," Frost said, stepping out. "Completely isolated from external signals, surveillance, and most known detection methods. Even your Galactic Council would have difficulty monitoring us here." That statement sent another shock through my system. Knowledge of the Council was restricted to species already in the interstellar community. "You claim to know about the Galactic Council," I stated, trying to regain some control of the situation. I know you are an advanced team tasked with identifying potential threats among humans before formal diplomatic contact. It's standard council procedure for new species integration. Frost gestured to a conference area where refreshments had been laid out, some clearly designed to approximate the nutritional needs of my species. That level of detail was terrifying. What I don't know, Frost continued, is whether your assessment will be favorable or not. And that concerns me, given how quickly your group fixated on physical threats rather than intellectual ones. You present both, Kraz muttered. Frost laughed, a genuine sound that momentarily broke through the calculated composure. Most fair point, but I'm hardly representative. Now, shall we talk openly? Your molecular disguises must be uncomfortable, and I'd prefer to see who I'm really dealing with. My team looked to me. This went against every protocol, every safety measure. Yet something told me our mission had already transformed into something entirely different. Deactivate disguises I ordered, but maintain emergency protocols. Our human forms shimmered and dissolved, revealing our true appearance as the tall, multi-limbed forms of Galactic Survey Corps officers. Frost didn't flinch, showing neither fear nor disgust at our alien biology. Instead, those calculating eyes studied us with genuine interest. Remarkable adaptation for both aquatic and terrestrial environments. Exoskeletal reinforcement at key joint structures. Sensory organs with likely multi-spectrum capability. The human paused, then met my primary visual organs directly. Now, Commander Vex, let's discuss why the Council really sent you and what you plan to report about humanity's readiness for contact. For the first time in my career as an advance observer for potential Council membership, I found myself completely unprepared for the conversation ahead. Please help yourselves, Dr. Frost gestured toward the refreshments. The blue containers have nutrient solutions calibrated for methane-based respiratory systems. I made an educated guess based on your subtle exhaust signatures. Kraz's weapon appendage twitched visibly. You tracked our biological emissions? Nothing so invasive, Frost replied, selecting a dark beverage for herself. Just observe the subtle atmospheric changes around your observation post. Your molecular restructuring tech is impressive, but your actual biology still interacts with our environment. Commander, Trill whispered through our secondary communication channel, this facility has no detectable exits beyond the one we entered through. I'm aware, I responded, maintaining visual contact with the human. Dr. Frost, your knowledge of our presence is concerning. Our mission parameters require discretion, assessment, non-interference. Frost interrupted. Standard Council protocol for pre-contact societies. I understand completely. The human took a casual sip from the beverage container, those unnervingly perceptive eyes never leaving my sensory stalks. What confuses me is why you are still calling me Dr. Frost when you have clearly accessed my personnel files. But Morgan works fine. Titles just create unnecessary distance. Very well, Morgan, I conceded, deciding to test this human's knowledge further. You claim familiarity with Council protocols, yet Earth has had no official contact with any extraterrestrial civilization. The slight smile that crossed the human's face sent an involuntary ripple through my chromatophores. The official being the operative word, Commander. Your council isn't the first visitor to our little blue planet. It's just the most bureaucratic. Zoltar nearly choked on the nutrient solution he'd cautiously sampled. That's impossible. All previous expeditions to this sector are documented in Council archives. Are they? Morgan raised an eyebrow. All of them. Every single unauthorized scout ship. Every curious independent explorer. Every damaged vessel seeking emergency repairs. You are claiming prior contact, I stated, my mind racing through the implications. If true, this violated dozens of Council regulations and completely undermined our mission parameters. Not claiming. Stating. Morgan placed a small device on the table between us. It projected a holographic display of unmistakably non-human technology. Recovered from Antarctica, 1947, Materials analysis indicates origin from the Cygnus sector. Carabaxian design, Kraz muttered, his warriors' training allowing quick identification. Deep space scout vessel. Yes, though your translation would be closer to stellar cartographer. The pilot survived for nearly 3 Earth weeks before succumbing to injuries sustained in the crash. Taught a small research team approximately 600 words of its language. My team exchanged alarmed glances. This went beyond protocol violations. This was potentially catastrophic for our assessment mission. This is one example I managed, trying to regain footing in the conversation. A single crash incident hardly constitutes meaningful contact. Morgan's laugh held no humor. You think that's my only example? Commander, humanity has been collecting evidence for centuries. Most is misidentified, some deliberately hidden, much dismissed as fraudulent. But those of us who know what to look for have assembled quite the historical record. The human manipulated the projection device, displaying dozens more artifacts, crash sites, and even what appeared to be biological samples. Our planet has been a waypoint, a curiosity, sometimes a resource extraction site for multiple spacefaring species. What makes your council different is simply the scale and formality of the proposed contact. For the first time since our mission began, I felt genuinely out of my depth. Our briefings had portrayed humans as clever but isolated, violent but uninformed about the greater galactic community. The reality sitting across from me shattered those assumptions entirely. If what you say is true, Trill ventured, her scientific curiosity overcoming caution, why hasn't your species announced these discoveries publicly? Morgan's expression became more serious. Would you announce your existence to potentially hostile neighbors before you could defend yourself? Most human governments made the rational choice: study quietly, develop defensively, prepare thoroughly. Yet you have revealed this knowledge to us, I pointed out. Why? Why? Because your assessment matters, Morgan replied simply. Your report to the Council will determine whether humanity is offered trade agreements, technology sharing, and diplomatic recognition or containment, in resource exploitation rights, and cultural guidance. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. The human had accurately described the 2 primary paths the Council offered to newly discovered intelligent species. The Council's decisions are based on careful evaluation of I began diplomatically. But threat assessment, Morgan cut in sharply. Let's not pretend otherwise. Species deemed too aggressive or unpredictable get the containment treatment. But limited technology transfer, restricted travel rights, economic dependence on Council trade routes. Kraz bristled. That's a gross oversimplification of a complex integration process designed to protect both. Both the new species and the established order, Morgan finished, looking unimpressed. And I have studied enough of your Council's historical first contacts to recognize the pattern. The Tresarians were deemed culturally immature despite faster-than-light capability because they refused centralized governance. The Vokarath were classified as potentially destabilizing because their religious practices involved consensual combat rituals. My circulatory pump began working overtime. This human shouldn't have knowledge of either species, let alone their specific contact classifications. Those assessment records are classified, I said carefully. Yes, they are, Morgan agreed, offering no explanation for the impossible knowledge. A tense silence filled the chamber. Finally, Zoltar broke it with the question we were all considering. What do you want from us, human? A fair assessment, Morgan replied instantly. One not based solely on our more volatile representatives or our current technological limitations. Your species engages in constant warfare, Kraz pointed out. Your history is dominated by violence. And yours isn't? Morgan challenged. The great expansion of the Caridian fleet resulted in the extinction of 3 sentient species before the Council intervened. The quantum purification crusade of the Volsci obliterated an entire sector's cultural heritage. Each example struck like physical blows. These were shameful historical events that most council species preferred to forget, yet this human recited them with perfect accuracy. Every intelligent species has violence in its history, Morgan continued, voice softening slightly. The question isn't whether we are capable of destruction, obviously we are. The question is whether we are capable of growth, cooperation, and restraint when needed. And you believe humanity possesses these qualities? Trill asked, genuinely curious. In sufficient measure to deserve a chance, yes. We are young as a technological species, inconsistent in our advancement, and frustratingly divided on many issues. But we learn quickly, adapt constantly, and possess remarkable creativity. I studied the human carefully. You speak as though you represent your entire species, yet you have admitted most humans remain unaware of galactic civilization. Morgan's expression became more complex, a mixture of emotions I couldn't fully interpret with my limited understanding of human facial patterns. I represent a perspective within humanity, one that believes cooperation offers better outcomes than conflict. There are others who would advocate for isolation, or worse, preemptive aggression. Your assessment may determine which approach gains support when contact becomes public knowledge. That's a significant responsibility to place on our observation team, Zoltar noted. No more significant than the responsibility of recommending whether an entire species deserves full rights in galactic society, Morgan countered. The human rose smoothly and walked to a wall panel, activating a display screen. It showed Earth from orbit, a stunning blue sphere wrapped in swirling white cloud patterns. Your council sees a resource-rich planet inhabited by a troublesome, fractious species that might someday become a nuisance if we develop further. I'm suggesting there's more to consider. Such as? I prompted, finding myself genuinely interested in this human's perspective. Such as the fact that we developed atomic power, digital computing, and spaceflight within a single century. That we went from horse-drawn transportation to landing on our moon in just 60 years. That despite our divisions, we have created global communication networks, eradicated diseases, and built cooperative scientific endeavors spanning continents. Morgan turned back to face us directly. And perhaps most relevant to your assessment, we have survived dozens of unauthorized alien encounters without descending into panic, religious hysteria, or global warfare. As much as I wanted to dismiss these arguments, they carried undeniable weight. Our mission parameters included evaluating adaptive capacity and technological growth, potential areas where humans clearly excelled. You have given us much to consider, I acknowledged. Though your knowledge of council affairs remains deeply concerning. Knowledge is my primary defense, Morgan replied with a small shrug. As I suspect you have already determined, I possess no exceptional physical capabilities by human standards. My only advantage is observation, analysis, and preparation. The deadliest predators rarely rely solely on physical strength, Kraz noted, almost respectfully. Indeed, Morgan agreed. Which brings us back to your original mission. You were trying to identify the most dangerous humans in that diplomatic gathering. Did you reach a conclusion before I interrupted your assessment? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. My team looked to me, waiting for my response. I believe, I said carefully, we may have identified at least one. For the first time, Morgan Frost smiled, fully a disarmingly genuine expression. Good answer, Commander. Now let me show you why that assessment is both correct and dangerously incomplete. Let me tell you about the humans you didn't notice tonight, Morgan said, activating a new holographic display. Images from the diplomatic reception materialized, highlighting various attendees. Not the loud ambassador, not the obvious security personnel. The human gestured to a server who had circulated with refreshments. Olivia Parker appears to be catering staff. Actually holds 3 advanced degrees in xenolinguistics developed by studying those 600 Carabaxian words I mentioned. She was analyzing your team's movement patterns and cataloging potential verbal communications. And the image shifted to an elderly maintenance worker who had briefly entered the reception hall. Retired General Marcus Turner oversees our orbital defense grid. Wanted a personal look at the room where first contact discussions might occur. Those arthritic hands once commanded our largest nuclear arsenal. With each new face, my sense of unease grew. Our observation team had cataloged the obvious power players, the security personnel, even the building's structural vulnerabilities, yet missed these humans entirely. The diplomat's aide who never spoke? Morgan continued. Dr. Layla Hassan, world expert on theoretical alien biology. The bartender? Former Special Forces operator Trevor Bailey, now specializing in non-human threat assessment training. You are saying the entire event was staged? Kraz demanded, his warrior instincts clearly offended by the deception. Not staged. Prepared, Morgan corrected. Every major power on Earth has contingency teams for extraterrestrial contact scenarios. Tonight, several of those teams were actively gathering intelligence while appearing entirely unremarkable. The realization hit me like a gravitational shock. The humans we identified as potential threats were the ones meant to draw attention, Morgan finished. A lesson my species learned through countless conflicts: the obvious threat is rarely the deadliest. Trill's scientific curiosity overcame her caution. Fascinating adaptive strategy. Social camouflage as defensive positioning. Precisely, Morgan nodded approvingly. The diplomat throws around power visibly. The security chief stands alert. Meanwhile, the actual response team blends into the background, gathering intelligence, assessing threats, preparing countermeasures if needed. This changes our assessment parameters significantly, I admitted. That's why I intervened, Morgan said, deactivating the holographic display. Your report would have characterized humans as predictable threats, aggressive, hierarchical, technologically limited, but potentially dangerous in sufficient numbers. And you believe that assessment would be inaccurate? Zoltar asked. May. Incomplete, Morgan corrected, and dangerously so for both parties. The Council would implement containment protocols based on perceived predictability. Some human factions would detect those protocols and respond with escalation, confirming the Council's worst assumptions. Creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of conflict, I realized aloud. With potentially catastrophic consequences, Morgan agreed. Especially since your Council doesn't know about humanity's other extraterrestrial contacts. The human walked to another wall panel, revealing a secure storage unit. From it, Morgan removed something that made Kraz instinctively reach for his concealed weapons, a data crystal of unmistakably Arctuvian design. That's impossible, Trill whispered. The Arctuvians are Tier 1 technology holders. They don't share their data storage systems with anyone, let alone pre-contact species. They don't share willingly, Morgan corrected, handling the crystal with practiced ease. This came from a scout ship that attempted covert resource extraction in our asteroid belt 30 Earth years ago. The crew abandoned ship rather than risk capture when their propulsion systems malfunctioned. The implications were staggering. Arctuvian technology was among the most advanced in known space, second only to the legendary precursor artifacts. If humans had successfully recovered and potentially reverse-engineered even basic Arctuvian systems, the Council believes they will be introducing humanity to galactic society, Morgan continued, carefully returning the crystal to its containment unit. In reality, fragments of that society have been interacting with us, sometimes cooperatively, sometimes exploitatively, for generations. Why reveal this to us? I asked, genuinely puzzled. You could have let our assessment proceed without intervention. The Council would have underestimated humanity, potentially giving your species tactical advantages. Morgan's expression softened slightly. Because I believe cooperation offers better outcomes than conflict. Because despite humanity's fractious nature, many of us genuinely desire peaceful coexistence with other intelligent life. and because an assessment based on incomplete information serves neither your council nor my species. For several moments, no one spoke. The implications required processing not just for our mission, but potentially for the Council's entire first contact protocol. "You understand," I finally said, "that we cannot simply take your word for all this. Our mission requires verified data, observational confirmation." "Of course," Morgan nodded, "which is why I'm offering your team unrestricted access to our Xenocontact archives, recovery sites, and research facilities. See the evidence firsthand, then make your assessment based on complete information." "That would violate at least 17 Council directives," Zoltar pointed out, though I noted the excitement vibrating through his sensory appendages. Sometimes I found myself saying, protocols must adapt to unexpected realities. "A very human perspective, Commander," Morgan said with apparent approval. "Your Council values stability and predictability. Humanity thrives on adaptation and innovation. Perhaps there's something to learn from both approaches." Traz, ever the tactical thinker, raised the obvious concern. "How do we know this isn't elaborate deception? Convincing simulations designed to manipulate our assessment?" "A fair question," Morgan acknowledged without offense. "Which is why I'm not asking you to file your report based solely on my claims. Verify everything. Question everyone. Apply your most rigorous analytical standards." The human approached our group, moving with that same careful, deliberate grace I'd first noticed at the reception. Up close, I could see the subtle markers of intelligence and alertness that radiated from those predator's eyes, but tempered with something I was beginning to recognize as wisdom. "There's something else you should understand about humans," Morgan said, voice quieter now. "Something crucial to your assessment that won't appear in any technological analysis or threat evaluation." "And what's that?" I asked. "We're not merely adaptive, we're transformative. Every species evolves to survive its environment. Humans change the environment itself. For better and worse, it's our defining characteristic." A small alert chimed from Morgan's communication device. The human checked it briefly. "The Council's formal contact delegation has altered course. They'll arrive in 48 hours instead of the originally projected 14 days. My team exchanged alarmed glances. "How could you possibly know that?" Trill demanded. Morgan's smile held no triumph, only quiet confirmation. "The same way I detected your observation post. The same way I identified your species before you revealed yourselves. Observation, analysis, pattern recognition." The human gestured to the facility around us. "This isn't just a research lab. It's one node in a global monitoring network specifically designed to detect signs of advanced technology. Your decoy satellite was obvious. Your observation team was challenging but trackable. The Council's main delegation? Their drive signature is distinctive even at half a light year. For the first time since our mission began, I felt something beyond professional curiosity or tactical concern. I felt genuine respect and perhaps, though I would never admit it in my official report, a touch of fear. Not fear of human weapons or aggression, but fear of underestimation, and of missing the quiet ones, the watchers. The thinkers who moved through crowds unnoticed while cataloging every detail, every vulnerability, every opportunity. "Commander Vex," Morgan said formally, "you came to Earth looking for the most dangerous humans. You focused on the loud, the obvious, the overtly powerful. But now you understand our true nature." "The deadliest human in the room," I replied. "The realization crystallizing is always the one no one notices." "Until it's too late," Morgan agreed, extending a hand in what I recognized as a human greeting gesture. "Now, shall we prepare for a more productive first contact than either of our peoples anticipated?" As I extended my primary appendage to complete the gesture, I realized our mission had transformed into something unprecedented. We had come to observe humans. Instead, One human had observed us, anticipated our movements, and completely reversed the assessment dynamic. In my thousands of cycles as an advanced observer, I had catalogued hundreds of species across 12 galactic sectors. I had encountered hive minds and silicon-based intelligences, world-spanning organic networks and crystalline entities that perceived time itself differently. Yet never had I encountered a species where the most dangerous individuals were neither the strongest nor the loudest, but rather those who watched from corners, collected information like precious resources, and moved with such careful purpose that they remained invisible until choosing to be seen. My report to the Council would require significant revision. Humanity could not be classified as merely another volatile young species requiring guidance or containment. They were something far more complex, individually unremarkable yet collectively transformative, technologically inconsistent yet adaptively brilliant, but anxious yet capable of remarkable cooperation when necessary. Most concerning of all, they were a species where the most dangerous members weren't the warriors or leaders, but the watchers, the analysts, the quiet ones who noticed everything while remaining unnoticed themselves. Like Dr. Morgan Frost, who had turned from observer to observer with disarming ease, redirecting our entire mission through nothing more than careful observation and precisely applied knowledge. As we followed the human deeper into the facility to begin our unprecedented joint assessment, one thought echoed through my consciousness. The Council had gravely underestimated humanity, and had I not met the deadliest human in that diplomatic reception, I would have done exactly the same. Interesting times ahead, Commander, Morgan commented, as if reading my thoughts. Indeed, I replied, thinking of the official Council delegation now approaching Earth, blissfully unaware that their arrival was already anticipated, their protocols already known, their assessment parameters already compromised. They were expecting to find a primitive species taking its first tentative steps into galactic awareness. Instead, they would encounter humans like Morgan Frost, quiet, watchful, dangerously perceptive, and prepared for far more than anyone suspected. The deadliest predators, after all, are rarely the ones that roar.